Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Everything Black podcast. I'm here again, and I'm here with not a familiar face, new face today. This is Sophia Parkins.
Hi
I know,
guys.
I know. She's gonna introduce herself, but I just want to give a quick introduction. Me and Sophia went to school together for a long time. Very close friends. She did my whole code photography, which we're gonna get a lot more into. But yeah, she's been a really close friend to me, and she's a very progressive person, I guess I would say, an activist in the not only Black community, but just her own self. Like she knows herself, and she's very adamant in who she is, and she stands for who she is, and she doesn't really let anybody take it away from her. And I think that's something that I really admire about her because she's unapologetically herself, no matter what, and no matter what situation she's in. Yeah, we were in the speech and debate class, and she's probably one of our best speakers and debaters at times. I think she actually got me to change my mind on putting the milk in instead of the cereal.
Milk first, yeah.
So yes, yeah. So I'm gonna let her go ahead and start. Also, happy National Podcast Day. We're here, and it's great. It's good. It's been about, I guess, almost. I guess I would say it's been about 2 or 3 months since I've had this podcast, and I'm just very thankful and glad to have it, and thankful to have the people on the show that I have had it on. So thank you to all the people. Thank you to Judson for continuing to edit the videos. Thank you to Zizi, who started the whole graphic design. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, my uncle, Chibi, Joe, Tylee, Elwin, all you guys that came on the show before. I appreciate you guys, and especially Brooke. Thank you, all you guys. I couldn't have done this, guy. I couldn't have done this without you, and you guys definitely will be very important and key pieces to this show as we continue to move it on. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna let Sophia introduce herself, and then we're gonna get on into it. So.
Hey guys, my name is Sophia Parkins, like Jaden said. Thank you for that introduction. Most people know me as Phia, but I've grown older, so some people have started calling me Sophia. Whatever works. Phia is just kind of how I tag my artwork. That's basically it. Um, I started out as a dancer, and then I started doing photography, built a business on photography, and if you aren't growing, you're dying. So then I was like, you know what? Now I'm going to try to do every art form. So now I can finally say that I'm a multidisciplinary artist. So I do all mediums at the current moment with a focus in film photography and digital photography.
Yes, and she does very good photography. We'll definitely put that in the description below and all the comments, everything like that. But yes, talking about your photography, well, first, I went to your Instagram. We'll also put that down there. And you actually had a really, really good quote that I actually really liked. I actually just liked it. You posted it 42 minutes ago, which is crazy. But you said after deciding your purpose, you have to mentally make a road to achieve that purpose, looking neither to the left side nor to the right side. And I think that's very true. I think everybody that's came on here has always talked about their goals and what they want to do and like their purpose and their 3 to 5 year plans and everything like that. And I think it's important, like you said, like stay on that straight path. You know what I mean? Like don't let the distractors or anything else like distract you from getting off your side. Because there's so many people that will come in and distract you from doing things. I think you talked about it where you said you had people that were like not as encouraging of what you wanted to do, but you stayed on your path. You continued to follow your purpose, and you knew what your purpose was, and you stayed on that path. You didn't let anybody veer you off. But yeah, I think that was just a very inspiring quote, and something that a lot of people can definitely look up to as well.
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to being Black and being interested in any type of art, like we talked about way before this, it started with dance for me. Like I said, there's a whole radical acceptance thing. I feel like Black artists, Black athletes, um, anybody Black that wants to achieve anything besides what we're confined to, um, we sort of feel like less, or we're made to feel less, and that's why I talked about the radical acceptance thing. Is sadly for people of color, radical acceptance is a survival tactic. It isn't really a choice. So that's why I'm um, very adamant about when people comment on the way people respond to things or their confidence, especially if I know the person personally and they happen to be a person of color. To me, it's like I don't feel like you should be upset at somebody for knowing their worth. And I understand that can come off as arrogant or rude, but my dad used to tell me, like, never crawl up on a cross for anybody. If you know what I mean, like direct reference to the Bible, I'm never going to crawl up on a cross and say I'm sorry for existing,
Yeah,
or as hard as life's been for me, I'm sorry for continuing to struggle. And like Maya Angelou said, like, I know why the caged bird sings. Like, I'm not gonna sit back and make myself smaller because I make you uncomfortable. And so doing art for me has sort of been like a protest in a way, is something that I will admit. Um, but it also is the way my brain is wired at this point in my life. It has also become a form of survival for me. So I don't really get insulted or hurt when people have negative things to say about the things that I make, or when people make the artwork that I do and compare it to who I used to be or who they think I am, um, because your perception has no bearing on my life whatsoever. So I create and I put out, and artwork is meant to provoke thoughts. It's not meant for people to say that's beautiful, and it's not meant for people to say that's ugly. But if those are the comments that they want to make about it, I welcome it, because that is what artwork is for. It's a communication tactic, just like writing and speaking and even sports. You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think people lose that sometimes in the photography because they think, oh, this is just a picture, but the picture, I forget who says it, but people say a picture can tell 1,000 words if you look at it the right way and you look at it in the right direction. And like you said, you're just, as a black person, it's so difficult because people are always trying to tell you what you can't be. I think, like you said before, like with dance and like with photography as well, like everybody wants to tell you what you can and can't be. And like even for me, I started playing lacrosse at senior year, and everybody always told me, "Oh, that's a white sport. Oh, you shouldn't be playing that. Oh, why are you playing a white sport? It's not for black people." And like let me be who I am. You know what I mean? Like you
Hmm.
are who you are, and I don't question who you are. So what does it matter that I am who I am and I like being who I am? You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I feel like all the time that's what holds people back because there's people like, oh well, I can't play lacrosse because people are gonna think I'm playing a white sport now. And it's like
Hmm.
it's never been that, like every sport, honestly, if we're being honest, every sport kind of started off with white people playing it. It was
Hmm.
football, basketball, it was baseball, and now we see it all the time. People of color have come in and honestly dominated that sport
Hmm.
because they weren't afraid to be themselves. Jackie Robinson was called the N word multiple times. And did he stop? Never,
Hmm.
not once. And I feel like things like that, like people are so, especially now, like I talked about before, the cancel culture is so toxic nowadays where it's like people are like, they don't even want to be themselves because if they're themselves, people are going to hate. So they have to follow a trend or follow the people that are doing wrong because essentially that's what makes them right. Like just
Hmm.
because everybody else is drinking at a party doesn't mean you have to do it because that doesn't make
Hmm.
you right. It never
Hmm.
does. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
just makes you a follower rather than a leader. And I think we have too many sheep and not enough sheep herders, I guess you would
Hmm.
say. Like we need more people that are able to stand up and just be themselves and just want to be who they are, or else we're just gonna continue to have people that are the same. And I think I said the same thing with Brooke. Like it's so many hairstylists out there. No offense to them, like that's your passion, but you don't have to be a hairstylist just because you're black and a woman. You can be a nail tech, you can be a doctor, you can be a
Hmm.
scientist, you can be anything you want to put your mind to, go do that. Don't just follow that mold that everybody puts you into or that box that everybody wants you to be in because that's not who you are. You are who you are and they are who they are. So just
Right.
go you.
That's why I think the quote comes in like left nor right. Don't even look to the crowd for their opinions. I feel like when I first started, I was kind of looking, like I said, you get that external validation from dance. You get used to it. It sort of becomes an addiction to like live for other people. And then this summer, I sort of realized I don't need to do any of that. I don't need to impress anybody. I don't need to, let alone, like, I understand standing up for yourself is a big deal, but I'm no longer explaining who I am, especially when it comes to my artwork. There are rules, there are guidelines, there's respect, like you're saying. And if you want to call me a white person because I'm taking a picture, there is a deeper issue. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Do you want to
By all
call
means
me a
hate all you
white person
yeah.
because you're playing lacrosse?
It makes no sense, but
It
that's
doesn't make any sense.
That's who people are, and I think people just look to hate sometimes. That's just who they are. Like they're like, well, I don't have anything going for me, so let me hate on this guy that's actually
Bored. Yep.
bored. Yeah, bored, so they hate.
Hmm.
And like you were saying, with the photography, not the photography. I'm sorry, what you were saying with the dancing, like entertaining people, and we talked about this off camera, but I wanted to bring it on camera because this is so important, and I just wanted people to know this, and I'm gonna give backstory to it as well, but you were talking about entertainment sports. You're talking about how like when you're dancing or you're playing sports or anything like that, it's almost like you're entertaining the people. You're only valued by your entertainment or by what you do. It doesn't matter about your personal life. As long as you are doing your job or you're producing the product that they want you to produce, that's all they care about. And
Hmm.
I honestly think what we both agreed to is it's just honestly modern day slavery that people don't see. Like
Yep.
they hide it behind, and I'm just gonna take it sports wise because I know sports more than dance, but um as far as sports, like it's they're making billions of dollars. Yeah, well, what are they getting paid to do? Work for who? These big white men of corporations who are paying you to do one job. You work for them, you do their job, and yeah, you're not working in a field for multiple hours on end, but you're putting your body on the line where they don't care about you. You're putting your mental health issues on the line where they don't care about that at all. All these personal issues that you have, they don't care about it. They just shut up and dribble, shut up and play. They don't care. You don't protest your opinions. Don't protest what you like. Don't none of that. No, just go play, do what I say, and you get paid. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you're technically getting paid, but you're still working for someone, and it's still basically slavery. You're putting on for the people. Like you're not putting on for yourself or anybody else. And like all the athletes always say, I always play for the. I don't play for the name on the back of my jersey. I play for the name on the front. But that's a
Hmm.
corporation. You
Yep.
should be playing for the name on your back because you should
Yes.
be. It's your work. You should be proud of yourself of you doing that work,
Yep.
and you having that name on the back of your jersey says so much because you got to the elite of the elite levels that other people couldn't get to.
Hmm.
But you're too focused on, I fight for my corporation. When most of the time they don't give a shit about you. You get injured
Hmm.
one time, they're done with you. They throw you away to the side. They don't care. Never a second look. Nothing.
And that's where the money comes in. I feel like a lot of people don't realize, or at least I'll speak for myself. I didn't realize that, you know, you get to like in sports and entertainment industries, you have prodigies and it's very messed up. You eventually realize when you're older, but you get to that age of like 13, 14, like right on the cusp of young adulthood, and you're like something weird's going on here. I can't quite really put my finger on it. And like,
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I had that moment where it's that aha moment, like a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized that this is something that I love to do. This is football, basketball, lacrosse are all things that people love to do. But you also get to that age where it becomes less about, I enjoy this, I'm passionate about this, I want to do this, and it becomes a business. What we need to realize is that everything that we enjoy, everything that we like in a capitalist market economy is a money empire. Sports are a money empire and dance are a money empire. And I decided that as much as I love this and as much as I can pursue this, I don't want to be sold. I don't want to be marketed, and I'm never going to be marketable. Because for me to wake up in the morning and the first thing I think about isn't what I love to do, but what I can do about myself, what I can change about who I am to fit into a mold and then be miserable for the rest of my life is ridiculous. And a lot of specifically dancers and artists are underpaid when they sign these contracts, and they sign them too young. They sign them at 15, 16. I signed a contract when I was 13. Like, it's as much as, they aren't money binding contracts, it's messed up.
Yeah.
And I think that is where parents go wrong too. Some
Hmm.
parents know what's going on and some parents don't. So it's that kind of like middle ground in the situation where like you can either like the uh confined to the system, or you can leave it.
That's true.
Um, so you got to make that choice for yourself, but you also have to make it very young. So I'm lucky that I got out of the trap, but the trap is there.
Absolutely. And so many people fall into it so quick, and it just sucks so much for them to fall into that trap because they can't get out sometimes because they're so deep in. Um, and because they're making because their parents are in such a or their family's in such a bad situation, they have to make money for them, and it's like, oh, well, this is the only way I can make money for them. So
Right. So your child becomes your currency, and
yes, exactly.
that is slavery, and
And,
that is a
and child
generational curse that
yeah,
Black people have had to deal with for the longest time. Um, Breaking cycles.
it's
That was
very
the goal, is breaking cycles.
mhm.
But to break a cycle, you also have to be aware of what you're reenacting. It's the same thing with like trauma reenactment when it comes to psychology, is you need to be aware of what is going on. And it usually takes a little too late to realize that I'm replaying this situation in my head, or I'm repeating things, or I'm self-sabotaging, for you to go, this is not happening again. I need to stop this. And so God bless the parents that realize what's going on, but good luck to those who don't. You know what I mean?
That's true. So we can talk about this. I love it. I love this the intellectual talk on this, because like so many people like ignore it, and like you said, so many people are focused only on the surface value, and the surface value is, oh, it's just Black people making money, yay, they're making money for the family. But there's so much deeper that you can look into so many different things, and once you start looking deeper, you kind of can't stop, because it only gets worse from there as you keep following the paper trail and everything else that follows, you know. But so on back to your photography. So you started your business. When did you start it?
Officially, I was kind of already getting paid after the whole football situation, but officially like took it seriously uh summer before junior year.
Okay,
Um
so
yeah.
about a year. It's been about a year. Would you say?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's only been a year.
Yeah, but that's still big. I think it's still big, like for you to be where you are now in the year. You know, I mean, you did it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you started sophomore year. Sophomore
I
year.
did. I started my way before I was in high school, but I started
Oh,
putting
okay.
out my
Okay. Wait.
work freshman year, and then I kind of had like a little, oh, people know who I am sophomore year,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you kind of just continue to rise up and break through, you know, as you continue through that. You started with doing it for free, and then like you got your name out there, and then officially you started, you know, like you said, making money. And once you start making money with something, you can't really stop. You know, that's when you can finally make it official. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as far as your business, one of the things we always ask people, and it's so important, like, what is your 3 to 5 year plan that you have on
The
the
business,
yeah, on the business?
3 to 5 year plan. Good question. Right now, like I said, I'm trying to get more printmaking, more painting out, start
Mhm.
getting commissions for that. Right now, I'm a young arts candidate, so I think that will give me a little more exposure if I succeed. But there's a lot of talented people in the world, so we'll see. But looking forward to the next year, I'm going to graduate with an associate's in graphic design, which I
That's
think will help. A big thing in my family, and especially for me, is like owning my name, which is
great.
another reason why I took the first 2 letters off, was that I knew I was going to have an Instagram for now before I make a website, because I don't really want to buy it from off of somebody else and pay monthly. I
Yeah.
want to be able to build a website from scratch, like learn web design, which is why I'm doing the graphic design. Um, and so, the Phia thing worked out because it's instantaneous and it's easier to say, but it was
Yeah.
also because I didn't want anybody to own my actual name. Um, Luckily now I can say like all rights reserved, like now that I understand copyright, but in the future I'm hoping to use what I've learned in school for the first 2 years or a year and a half, a
Mhm.
little early, and build my own website. And then from there, I'm probably going to move on to other mediums. I probably will have a clothing line in the future. I probably will be printing T-shirts. I probably will be getting more into film. I really like working with kids, so a lot of volunteer work.
Okay.
Um, but basically, in the next 3 to 5 years, like I'm not really a person that's confined to timing. That's never worked out for me. I'm not saying that I'm going with the flow, or that I don't care, but keep the clientele going. Not only keep the money coming in, but also continue to grow as an artist. Um, and I think I've done pretty well at um, developing a distinct style.
For
So
sure. I was gonna say that, yeah, like everything I've seen, like you have your own way of doing things and your own way of making pictures. Like you use a different color of, I think one of your pictures you use blue light, and then sometimes you use the black and white, and then sometimes you use all white, and then sometimes, it looks very vintage, and you have so many different styles, and sometimes you do the headshots and things like that. And I like how you don't just, take this pose. Like you can really see the essence of the person sometimes because they're like actually doing human things. Like the person's actually walking. You're not like, okay, just pose like this, or stand just like this. It's
yes,
like, okay, actually do something that you would do in real life. Like, and
yeah,
I'll capture you doing it, and you do a
yeah,
great job of it, and just keeping that the purity of the person and the purity
raw.
the raw. There you go, the raw picture. I'm sorry, I'm not really good with
No,
the
you're good. You're good.
but yes, definitely that word. Yes, raw with the environment and the person, and like you don't really I guess would it be edit or
I don't really. It's okay. So I do. I retouch them. I edit them.
Mhm,
But I feel like what you're talking about is a lot of photographers when it comes to photography. It's like when you see sports photography, and this is why it will never be my niche. When
mhm,
you see sports photography, it is commercialized and marketed, and there's always an argument between is it art or exploitation. To me, Um, I would say that specifically focusing on sports photography would feel like exploitation for a number of reasons, but I'll save that for later.
mhm,
Um, it's not something that I naturally am drawn to. I started out with reportage, which is basically like documentary photography because I wanted people to see what I see in my head every day. And it's amazing that I've been able to grow clientele on it, but I need people to understand that like people come to me for a certain type of picture and that's what I'm going to give them, and everybody that comes to me knows that because my work is it's out there. I am open to people judging it. So like you're saying, I wouldn't, and it comes from the dance too. I sort of like see movement and space differently
yeah,
than if I were to play a sport. A lot of the sports photographers that you see played a sport. I was a dancer, so I see movement differently. I capture it differently because that's just how my brain works. I we Everybody processes like motion and emotions and thought differently, and I I guess do the same thing.
yeah,
And so I like that people notice that about me, is that I would never tell somebody to like stand straight, smile, and like put their two thumbs up because
yeah,
like I know I can feel when I'm capturing who a person actually is. So I feel like that's a lot of the thing that's missing, or that people don't really understand about me is that I mean, I hate to be corny, but it is more than a picture. It actually takes a lot of emotional and mental strain to do multiple photo shoots in a week because for me to get a good picture, which I guess isn't the most efficient way, but not everything has to be efficient, is what we need to realize. Um, I need to connect with the person that I'm taking the picture of because then and I mean, I do get imposter syndrome. When you do, and I've had months where I've just been picture, 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 photo shoot back to back. It's exhausting mentally and emotionally because I'm not somebody that is just gonna like stand in front of you and I don't know, make you a clothing hanger
yeah,
or tell you to look pretty for me. I want you to be who you are, without the constraints or without me projecting how I see you or how I perceive you onto the lens, and then you get the picture back and you're like, I just feel like it's not really me. That's not what I do. That's
mhm,
not what I try to do. So to me, when if that does happen, like it wouldn't be a failure on my part, but it would be okay, like I need to step back and like rethink how I approach this process. So yeah.
and how was it because obviously photography, I don't think, I mean, most times you don't see the person behind the camera most times anyway, but when you usually do, as we said before, like a lot of people think of it as a white thing and white people usually do it. And like how was it for you going against that grain, I guess you would say, and the struggle of people always constantly thinking it being one thing, but you've made it your own thing and you've become a and I'm trying to say I don't think mogul's the word, but you've become your own person in your oh my goodness, I cannot get the words. Okay, you become your own person inside of your job category and inside of your expertise, your area of expertise. That's what I would say. Okay, so you become your own person, your area of expertise, being a person of color in a spot where you weren't really supposed to be at. And how has that been for you as far as that? Like, what have you kind of faced, and how have you changed?
So I'm not quite sure if I want to talk about um what I want to talk about first. I'll start with at the beginning. I started when I was, I mean, I'm not saying I'm grown now, but 15 to 18 is a big
Yeah,
formative
def-
years are a big switch. So there's definitely a level of maturity and processing and knowing what to do, what to say, what not to say. When I was 15 and I got hit with that hate, it was just kind of like you don't really know what to do with that. At 15, no 15-year-old would know what to do with that, and I didn't. So I sort of went the wrong way for a while. Like I stopped producing, and then I think naturally I was drawn back to it. I was like, wait, I'm not finished with this. And then that's when the business started. But this directly points back to your question is what did you face? And it's like, first of all, like you're a female
that
um,
as well. Yes, of course.
in any space. Like as much as men hate to admit it, or even like some of the smartest dudes that I know had things to say. And so you know, sorry, like specifically pointing back to that like situation with the football team, there were names that I was called that weren't even like related to the pictures, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. They were more targeting the person than it was the actual picture.
Yeah, so it was a lot of like sexual terms, misogynistic terms, and so I got a lot of that. My sophomore year when I first started, I did get a lot of that. People making it about, oh, she's doing the pictures for the popularity, which
Yeah,
then would convert to men. So that's interesting that there was like a currency put on it in a way.
yeah.
And then what I started facing, which I've been facing my whole life, I went to private Catholic school and then I was a ballet dancer. And anybody that I know that is a person of color in any of these spaces would say the same thing. So I'm not even making this about myself. But not only do you get alienated by the people in those spaces who are white, because those are predominantly white spaces, but you also get alienated by people outside of the spaces that look like you.
So what are some things that you've experienced, of course, being a black woman in your field, in your job area of expertise, dealing with, majority of people thinking that it's more of a white category of things. What have you dealt with mainly as your challenges, and like how have you felt being in an environment like that?
I think I'll first start off with being a woman. Like I said before, I'm not quite sure if you're gonna cut it, so I'm just gonna fully repeat myself. But when I first started, or when people first started noticing me, I was 15, and like I said, like 15 to 18 sounds like a small difference, but it's big. There's a lot of big changes, and now I understand how to process how I could have processed that situation better. Um, a big example for me is like the whole football thing. It
Yeah.
became less about the picture and like my pictures and more about like calling me misogynistic names, sexualizing a 15-year. Like it was
More personal than about the picture, as you
right.
said.
And that's a lot of stuff that I feel like in any field women will deal with.
Mhm.
Because for me, it became about no, like she actually doesn't take good pictures or she isn't passionate about this. It's for the popularity, and then the popularity would equate to validation from men and so on. Um, because everybody sees everything through the male gaze, because that's just how the patriarchy works. But um, if you're aware of it, you can choose to reject it. Like I said before, with like the whole trauma reenactment thing. So as
Mhm.
I grew older, I realized, and I'm still struggling to separate myself from my past. Um, and I think a lot of other people struggle to separate who I was 2 years ago to who I am now. I've definitely had a lot of struggles with that in my personal life, and when it comes to photography, is people taking it as a surprise when I deliver them good images or good work, or when they see my work, it's kind of like a surprise to them. And I know I had one friend, male actually, when I was a sophomore, that told me like about the whole situation. He was just like, like I know you're working on things. I know it's not as good now, but I know that in 2 years you'll be where you want to be. And that's sort of something that I've always reminded myself, is to keep growing and changing, and that art isn't objective, it's subjective. So I
Mhm.
think part of the thing that I struggle with isn't really above the surface. It's not something that you're going to hear somebody say to me. Just like racism, it's a microaggression. There are nuances, things that you need to notice below the surface when you pick up somebody's body language, eye contact, things like that. I've also, working for adults, I've had to struggle with the pay. At one point, I was getting paid less than minimum wage when I first started. Part of the reason is because I didn't really understand. I always understood profit because that's just, math is sort of how my brain works, but I never really understood setting up a value, making sure that it's an efficient and ethical choice, stuff like that. So now that I've raised my prices because I know I have experience and I'm about to have a degree under my belt, um, it has definitely been a struggle with adults because they're like, oh, a friend, they hear from their child, they're like, can you do my headshots? Can you do my son's so and so, blah blah blah. And I think I kind of struggle with like what I expect to be paid and what ends up happening. So, and then that's for every artist and really any employee. Um, when you work for people, it becomes an issue of uh, the company would be nothing without its employees, which a lot of employers don't realize. But as I'm working for myself, I have to realize that I need to set that value for myself because there's a reason why I am always at all times self-employed, whether I'm working another job on the side or whatever. It's always about self-employment. It's always about, you can own, you can try to recreate the image, you can try to take what I make, but it's mine. I hold the copyright laws. So it's a lot of below the surface microaggressions and nuances and little things that people say, like, oh, but what's your actual job? I've gotten that from actually, well, at the time, very close friends. What are you actually doing?
Mhm.
Or I've also gotten at one point during my junior year when I was like really struggling with my mental health and I was still keeping the business up and the schoolwork up. Um, a friend at the time saying, "Oh, like saying that basically what I wanted to do in the future was a little iffy because I need to start making more money." And it's a normal thing. It's a normal thing to struggle with, but like the world is yours, and that's what I always keep reminding myself. So it's not that I try to pay less attention to it, but I kind of, at this point in my life, if I need to, I'm like a very much like take no shit, give no shit person.
Mhm.
People take that as a rude or aggressive, which I could see, but I'm not going to give you shit if you don't give me shit.
Yeah.
So there's setting a boundary with that, but then there's also knowing, picking your battles, knowing when to say something. If it's not necessary, like this, what I'm saying, like you don't pay my bills, you don't pay for the gas, you don't pay for the camera cards, you don't pay for the cameras, you don't pay for the camera batteries, and if you're not a client, like there is no empathy, curiosity, there is no business transaction, then I'm gonna let it roll off my shoulder.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the thing, and I feel like maybe Brooke will relate to this, but um, what people need to understand is even though it's a small business and we are younger, it's still a business transaction. And if you go to a hair salon, I saw this quote somewhere, if you go to a hair salon and you ask for a service done, if you ask for a blowout, you're going to expect a certain price mark and you're going to have to pay the the hair salon or the hairstylist and tip because you're paying for a service. And I feel like when people come to small businesses, especially black businesses, they think, "Oh, I could underpay this person or like I could finesse a service," and that's just not how it works. You're asking for a service, you get a service. It's a business transaction, and
Regardless of
it's
skin
both
color,
ways.
who it is, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head actually of what I learned in my class. Shout out to my professor, Dr. Benev. He actually watches the podcast, so I'm pretty sure he'll probably be watching. But yeah, he was talking to me and he was telling me about this lady. I believe she's from France. Her I forget. I think I forget her first name, but I know it's Kimberly. Um, but yeah, she talks about intersectionality, and you kind of nailed it on the head of um, the struggles that a black woman will face are so much more different than what that of a woman and that of a black man will face because she has not only being a woman, but she also has the struggle of being black. So all that in together creates a even bigger struggle that you're dealing with outside of just your one. You know what I mean? So it definitely creates a bigger struggle for you, but it also creates more challenges and it makes
Yeah.
it harder. And like you said, it's easier to be undermined, but it's good that you keep that boundary and things like that.
Mhm.
And one thing I asked Brooke was like, how hard was it to to get your clientele? Because I mean, like, obviously there are other photographers out there, and obviously there are people that probably would be like, oh well, since she's coming up, maybe I can't trust her, or because she's because like you said, black businesses, a lot of people like get it stay away from them because of course we are usually small and we're still working our way up, and sometimes we stay small, but that doesn't mean we don't get the job done. Like, we get the job done as well as anybody else. We just don't have that funding that everybody else is accustomed to getting, as far as not as well as we do.
Mhm.
So as far as that, like, how hard was it to find people that would really you know um grow fond of your work and ask you to like take photos of them yourself?
Um, like you were saying, I'm gonna start with the funding part because you brought up funding.
Hmm.
What people don't understand is that like I feel like the mark between a professional and an amateur is if the business is subsidizing the supplies. Like, and I can say that that's what is going on now. I can say that I can have a client and they will pay for camera equipment. It's included in the cost because I figured that stuff out. But in the beginning, it's like it's coming out of your pocket. So, like, I was working as a hostess when I was like, you know what, like, I don't need to be owned, I'm done. And the money had to come out of my pocket for the Adobe packs and the camera equipment and the lighting and the light
Hmm.
and the white background. And like, I knew it was a come up, and luckily I had people around me like Brooke who were always very supportive. Like, seriously, I cannot thank her enough. Like, very, very, like, deeply empathetic and supportive, but she also would tell me when I needed to, like, you need to start doing this. Like, there was a point in time where I just felt like I didn't really want to share any of my work, and she was like, no, you need to put it out. Like, you need people like that. So, mentors can be your age. That's what I say. It's like a step in the process. If you're lucky enough to get a mentor, get a mentor. But like people say, like, success is a lonely road. Like,
That's very true.
last year was very lonely for me, and it took me a while to realize that, wow, I was really doing schoolwork, and when I was not doing schoolwork, I was editing pictures. And like, I have people that tell me, like, you need to stop stressing yourself out, but I'm like, this is to me, this life that I have is a gift. Not everybody can make money off of what they love to do. Not everybody can do what they love to do. And as I don't have that privilege of being careless and being mediocre because I am black, I do have the privilege of people wanting to see what I put out. And I don't know. I think it's always been like a style thing. I think you can always, like, even like back in the day, you could look at a picture and be like, oh, she took that. Even before I had developed like a lot of the techniques, a lot of the under the under the table, like, stuff you learn in school, like nuances of pictures and like rule of thirds, stuff like that. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then after I taught myself it, I feel like people sort of saw, like, if you believed in me, you sort of saw like what you always knew was there, like, come out. So it wasn't easy, but it was a fight. And I feel like there's a huge networking thing in this. I am not a fan of social media. If you go on my Instagram, there's not a single picture of me, but and that's for a reason. But I feel like I'm not detached from my work. I feel like that's the thing that maybe gets me the clientele, is that I very much as it seems like when you see me from outside or when you see me from a website, it doesn't seem like I'm as involved in the process as I am. But
Hmm.
like when I take a picture of somebody else, like there is a little touch of me in it. So I feel like it came from actually getting to know people, telling them what I'm about, a lot of verbal communication. And then when I started posting, I'm not saying it took off, but like December of last year, it just kind of like there was just a roll. People were booking months in ahead. People were
Hmm.
booking weeks in ahead. During Christmas break, it was back to back to back. It's you definitely have to be in a certain mental space to create that much, but it's really about, I feel like maybe for Brooke it's different. I don't know. For me, it's about how many ideas live in my head, the vision of the other person, or if they come to me and they're like, I have no vision, I trust you. How can I manifest what I think you want just by the vibe that I'm getting? So I feel like a lot of the clientele came verbal. It came from verbal communication, and it came from people who my sophomore year, had seen the pictures and they were like, "Why'd you stop?" And then when I started again, they were like right there to support me. So I'm very thankful for people like that, like Joe and Chibi, known them for a while. Um, they they were like, "Yo, we want to use you for our first job." That I think that also did me well. But yeah, just like not even friends, but just like people that are around you.
Yeah.
Other Frederick has like a bit. This is what I will say about Frederick High is that they have a big community of people that want to be their own person and want to create. There's a big theme of self-employment and being your own person and understanding how to make your own money, and not being owned, especially with a lot of the people of color at the school. So I feel like when they see another person that wants to win, regardless of the quality that they're putting out right now, they believe in that person. And then, when they see the work manifest, they're like, we're ready to go, like all hands on deck. So just a lot of people like that who are willing to trust me when I first started. And then you get the loyal clients, and then you get more clients from the loyal clients. It's all about networking. And I do disagree with the quote that's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and it's both, because knowledge is power.
Very
Um,
true. Very true.
so if you meet somebody, you show them a different side of the world. When you meet people, like you're kind of like stepping into their world. You got
Hmm.
to tap into that. And then if they see that when they speak, or when they're trying to tell you something or educate you on something that you might not be educated on, um, that you're not like waiting for the next time to talk. You're really listening. So it's more of like a emotional connection that I formed with a lot of my clients. I take, like, it might not seem like it, but I take deep like consideration of the way people feel while they're being photographed, because it is invasive and it can go wrong. It's a very sensitive thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything you said, like, I can 100% agree, especially with the feeling of the support system, because for me, my uncle is my support system. And honestly, the reason why I even had the motivation to even start this, um, because I honestly like got into the mode of, oh, I can only do one thing, and that's either sports, or when I first started it was music. And then as I grew, I was like, okay, well, sports is done for me, and I don't want to do music anymore, so I guess this is it for me. And then it was like, my parents said, oh yeah, you're just gonna go to college, or you're gonna do political science, and that's gonna be it. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's it for me. And then my uncle, like, he just kind of like told me, like, there's more for you. Like, I definitely see you doing more than what you think you are gonna do. And him saying that, and then him also having his story of not being not being what he was told. Like, everybody told him he was gonna be an accountant, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave this large sum of money on the table to be an accountant, to switch up and go bet on myself and become a model slash actor, and fight through the strikes that's going on right now, and continue to make money, and continue to grow, and continue to develop and network, as you said. um yeah, like, he truly was like, yeah, you can do it. Like, you can definitely do it. Like, if I'm doing it, he's like, I know you can do it because I see
Hmm.
something more in you. And like for Brooke, like, he just saw the potential, like, and he knew that I could do it. And it was just kind of like, a light bulb moment for me where I was like, you know what, like I really can. And he honestly said, he's like, yeah, you can do a sports podcast. And I was like, I'm so much more worth a
Then
sports podcast, and I feel like I have so much knowledge and so much wisdom that I'm ready to bestow upon my own people. Before, sports is just so basic, so casual, and it's like almost like a get out of jail free card for some people, because it's like, oh,
yeah.
okay, I'll just talk about sports and everybody's gonna love me. But when you talk about stuff like this, it's so hard, and especially with me being at a PWI, or a lot of people don't know, prehistorically white or predominantly white institution, it's incredibly hard to talk about stuff like this because they either look over it or they don't want to talk about it, or you know either or even in the middle. And so to have a podcast like this, it's like, oh, like, do I even want to bring something? Like, I've even like mentioned it sometimes, and sometimes they're like, oh, I don't even like podcasts. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely not bringing it up to you. Or like some people, it's like, do they want to hear the stuff that I have to say? Especially because some of the times it's about the stuff that they've done wrong in our community, and I'm not blaming them specifically because but they are a part of it because of who they are. It just the same.
Silent murderers. Yep.
Exactly. It's the same as I'm a part of it as well. If I don't say something, the people that don't speak up are just as much a
Bystanders.
problem as much as the people that are doing it. And like you said, Frederick High has been a big family. Like you said, almost everybody I've had on is from Frederick. Like that's all I know, and that's who I grew up with. And at least my high school years, like those are I have some of my closest friends, Shahid and Malachi and Judson, and all these people that I started this podcast with. Like, those are people that I really grew up with, and I truly made a bond with them to the point where we are out here making a change in people's lives that no one ever thought we could. Um, so yeah, like you said, like people are just so invested in themselves, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go make money for myself because that's what I want to do. And so many other people can't say they do that. Some people can't say, like Joe and Chibi. Some people can't say they have their own clothing business that's literally going almost global at 18 and 17 years old. You know what I mean? And it's just so big to be able to have that and be able to say, oh, I was a part of that movement. You know what I mean? Like, just being a part of that movement means so much because it inspires you and it gets you wanting to do something for yourself. And that snowball effect just continues and continues. And I think we've seen it as, Brooke's business has grown. Seen it with your business as well. Avani's business has grown. I know she's not in high school anymore, but her business has grown with her hair business. Her business has grown, and that, like, the Give Back Day, like all of that continues to help grow and improve our community as well, because it's keeping us together, especially us, because if we don't have each other, who do we have? And because we face the struggles that me and you have faced together. You know what I mean? Like, I know most of my stories are somewhat similar, or at least somewhat of the same to yours in some type of way. So, we've almost had the same battle scores, and we can almost talk about these things because we've been through it. And so that's another reason why I just made this podcast, because it's so much important that we have something that we can relate to and have someone that that we can look up to and look at, because it's okay to have, that story of, how you were oppressed. What's most important is how you grow back from it, because that's
Right.
bounce back is more important than the fall back.
Yep.
So I absolutely cannot agree more with everything you said. But yeah, so I don't think we really talked about why. Like, what's your why for photography?
What's my why? I get this question a lot. Um, so like I was saying, when I originally quit dance, I was kind of like, there was like an emptiness I was left with, like not even in an exaggeration, in like an over exaggerated way. There was a bit of an emptiness I was left with, aside from like noticing like mental issues. Um, but I was just kind of looking for a way, like an outlet, a way to create, somewhere where I can put my emotions. There's like a lot I live in my brain. Like, that's why I'm so creative. Is there's a lot that I struggle with, but it's also sort of a gift in a way. I mean, I knew I couldn't like silent or put that like little voice, um, creative voice in my head like on mute. So I was like, I need to find something. It's very interesting how things come to me, but I think I don't even remember. I think it literally popped up on my TV, but it's called See No Evil. It's a documentary about David Sorrenti. He's an Italian fashion photographer, late 90s. He was diagnosed with thalassemia, which is basically like sickle cell, but like the rarest form of sickle cell. And he struggled with addiction. But it was just very inspiring to me because he was somebody that had been struggling with like a detrimental illness his whole life, and he kind of had that same attitude as me, where he was like unapologetic, like kind of badass, but there was a sensitivity about his work, and like his pictures are all over my wall. There's like a sensitivity about his work and the way he approaches it, and it was always like friends, like even if they were models, like it was always just like love and like rawness and trueness. And I just like I was just like I need to do something with photography. I've always had an eye. I've that's the thing though, it's very interesting like how you get guided to things, because even when I was younger and I was dancing, I was like, I really want a camera, I really want a camera. My parents were like, you have one on your phone, stuff like this. And my 15th birthday, um I get this package in the mail. It's from my uncle. He usually sends me stuff because he lives up in New York. And I open the package and guess what it is? Like, I think a day after I watched the documentary, a camera. And I was just like, how did he know? And not only that, I was like, I just quit dance. Like, it just, people just, family's very connected. Everybody's like very spiritually connected. I think generally for Black people, it's just how we survive. But I was like, okay, let me try and go take these pictures. First pictures I put out, I think we're with Miss Bella Signor, who goes to Oakdale. I'm pretty sure she's a junior. But to this day, they're like still some of the best pictures I've ever taken. And I've taken a lot of pictures. Um, and it was kind of just this like, it was the feeling that I got from dance, but without like the dictatorship and like the being confined to like a box. It was free. And I was like, I didn't know quite yet, but I was like, I'm gonna do something like this. You know what I mean? So my why is like when you go through, especially as a Black woman, like literally the most disrespected person, um, you you kind of you have to survive. And not only that, like you maybe could thrive if you try, and that's always the goal. But with the added mental illness issues that I have, and like the physical illness issues that I had in the past, this past year, it kind of became an outlet, and not even in like a projection way, but I really do love interacting with people. And this is going to sound messed up, but I'm a little damaged from the past, so I think I like interacting with people in a true raw way, like not being confined to anything, not being confined to um like the hierarchy of like a relationship or anything. um but just being able to connect with people is very special to me. So I think my why is the fact that, when you go through these things and you are kind of the person that like always feels alone, being able to connect with people and being able to collaborate, because art is really a collaboration thing, being able to collaborate with people and create is not only like a form of therapy, but it's kind of like it's a very spiritual thing for me. I think like whatever, if I do have a gift, I don't think it's like something that exists on this planet. If you know what I mean, I feel like it's literally a gift. If you know
Yeah.
what I mean. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we all get them. Like honestly, I feel like it's all like God given. For me, I feel like they're all God given gifts that we have to put into use because He gave them to us for a reason. And yeah, I think like everybody has their, like you said, like everybody has their own thing, and everybody's good at their own thing for a reason because you have a purpose to use that gift for Him, and to carry out what He does. Like with Owen, it's basketball, and he continues to spread His word with that, and that's one of the major things for me. I think it's always been like, okay, what did God give me, and how can I use his many gifts he's given me in how many different ways, you know, because like it's like I said, it started with music for me, and it started with singing and theater, and then it moved to sports, and then it moved to just public speaking.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I just continue to use them in every way I can, and you
Mhm.
know, just spread a good light, you know, use them for the right reasons and not the wrong. So things like that. And yeah, what you were saying with empathizing with your clients, I think that was one thing Brooke always said too as well. Like it's just so important to know your clientele and know who you're talking to and know who you're with, you know what I mean? Because um like you said, number one, they pay you. Number two, they're people, you know, as well as anything else, as well as everybody else. So but they're more important, I guess you would say, because you have to create that personal connection with them in a sense when you guys are working with them in a business setting, because they're they're your friend, but they're also your client, and you want them to have that good experience. Like you said, you want them to have that the best raw experience of themselves as they can of what they want from their pictures and things like that, and you do your best at trying to get that for them, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I guess I would also ask you, like you were talking about, I think you said Bella Signor was like some of your best pictures you've taken, and they were like your first ones you ever taken. Like, how do you rank that as well? Like, how is that? How do you rate your pictures, and how do you know? Oh, this one's a good one, or this one. You know.
Um, as anti-art world, this is technique
Mhm.
kind of out the. It's like maybe like at number 6, like sensitivity, um, like the manifestation of the vision. Um, when you look at the picture, does it have a flow?
Okay.
Um, you know, in art school, you talk a lot about white space, negative space, depending on like what specific medium you're talking about. If you look at my pictures, there's always like a little touch of negative space, but like right before like the focal point or the main part of the picture, movement. Most of my pictures that I really like are like mid moving, or like you can see like the person's hair is
Yeah.
going in that direction, or you can
Hmm.
see the person's jumping or laughing. I want to see life.
That's
So
what I was
if
gonna. Yeah, so much life in the pictures, and I think that's what I was struggling to say before. But yeah, it's very inclusive of the whole environment, like use the environment to your advantage at some points,
Mhm.
because like if the wind is blowing a
Yes,
certain way, you blow the wind to make
yes.
sure that the hair is going, you know.
I don't
So
do backgrounds. Like
yeah,
everything is a part. Like I think maybe probably the best skill that I've utilized is composition. Like throughout, like it's consistent in all of my work is the composition. Like what is in the picture, what is the focal point. That's probably my strongest suit. I'm not saying I don't have things to work on, but what really defines like a good picture versus oh, this is like gonna make somebody happy, or like to me, I don't really see it. It's the emotion, sensitivity. If you look at the picture or you look at the piece of artwork that I did and it makes you think or feel something, then I have accomplished what I want to accomplish. If you don't feel something, but it's technically a good picture, I'm not going to rank that high.
yeah,
So that's another thing that I've been doing, like in building my portfolio, is first of all, I have to go through all of the pictures I've taken, because I feel like you especially know that when I take pictures, I take a lot. Because
yes,
to me, you have to, if my goal is capturing movement, like there's going to be pictures that, just don't make the cut.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
and I feel like that's why like you were saying before we even started this podcast, like there's a lot of like misunderstanding with who I am as a person, let alone like the work that I do.
Hmm.
And I don't really feel like that's a bad place to be, because I'm
It's
supposed
not.
to make you think. So um a lot of that, if my work makes you think, then it is ranked high. If it doesn't, then I'm not saying it's a failure, like I said before, but it's not quite where I'm
Ranked
going.
as high. Yeah. And I think it works perfectly for you because everything you're saying is such a dance thing. Like, does it make you feel a certain way? Like, especially with dancing, like the whole point of choreography is it wants you to move, or it
Mhm.
wants you to feel sad, or it wants you to feel happy, or wants you to feel like it wants you to feel the act as they jump, as the beat gets louder. They want you to feel that, the crescendo and and I feel like you use that in photography so well because they blend so well together. Like it's almost like it's the same thing for you. You know what I mean? So it's really cool how you use your so much experience. As you said, like it's like with networking, it's not who you know, it's more what you know as well, and use that because you know, what you had known was dance, and now with photography, you just blend it so well together. And I think I've done it as well. Like what I always knew was history. I was always good at history, and now I get to use.
You get to apply it. That's a lot of like. Sorry, I'm like going into school now, but I remember I took this class my junior year, like which is basically last year, but it feels like it was forever ago.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's just weird. But like I had such a good professor for my English 101 class because I took it outside of the school. I had such a good professor, and I remember him. The first thing that he taught us was like, what is education? Like every essay I wrote was about like these different levels of education, how people process education, how we should be giving education, like just very different opinions. And it really made me value education. But what I learned throughout the class and what I think every other student left learning is that education happens when what you learn inside the classroom leaves and goes into the real world. So that's when people are like, I used to be very against like college and school, but you take one college class and it changes your view of things like the money and like the capitalism thing aside, like the student debt thing aside, like really the value of like any education is if you apply it, and that is your responsibility. So there's a lot of steps that you have to go through to apply that. But I saw it with dance too, is I really spent all of my time. I was in school for dance, and I mean, when things get drilled into you and like the way you see things gets drilled into you from a young age, you will eventually leave that classroom and apply it to the real world, which is what you're saying about the history and the political science thing. And like when you get a degree in mathematics or when you get a degree in English, like when you go out and get a job, you're applying that. It's applied mathematics or it's applied knowledge of the English language. So really like constantly being open to knowledge has definitely changed who I am as a person. Because I feel like we've seen each other grow, but I feel like you kind of saw me like at the beginning too. And I feel like for anybody who saw me at the beginning, like it is like a very big switch. And I feel like some people can process that in a bad way, like I've changed, but it was, and I think you would agree too, like everybody goes through changes, but I feel like the
Especially
changes that are happening now are for the better for ourselves. We understand things more, so we make different decisions.
Yeah, and I like you're saying, like I think that's why some classes for me I looked at a lot differently than others because it's like when I took pre-calc, I didn't take it as seriously as when I took AP government because government is something that I can actually use and actually talk about whereas pre-calc, I'm probably never gonna need to learn what the quadratic formula is besides for this test. Like, so for me, it was like I never took that seriously. And then, yeah, just like you were saying, like your growth, like for sure, I've definitely seen it from freshman Phia to as now you're a senior. Like it's crazy seeing that, you know, I've known you for 4 years, you know, all throughout high school. And yeah, like just the differences I've seen. I think it, you know, at the beginning, like you definitely weren't who you are today, if that makes sense. Like it's 100%. Say, but you definitely aren't who you are today, and it's definitely for the better that you aren't who you were before. Because I feel like you've taken out. I do feel like at times like confidence wasn't always there. I feel like now it's like you can really see it's breaking through, and it's good to see that because you're getting older and you're about to go into the real world and you're about to really show who you are, and you fully become, like I said before, you unapologetically become who you are. At first, you know, you were kind of unapologetic, but at times you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be that person sometimes. But now it's like, no, I am who I am. I'm gonna stand on who I am, and this is who I am. And as a Black person, you have to stand on that because your morals are so important. And like you said, your boundaries that you set as a Black person are so important. And most importantly, like your culture, like you can never forget your culture and you can never forget where you came from, because when you forget where you came from, then you don't have an identity, because where you started is your identity. Like I think you
will
can agree.
always be like that's sorry to interrupt, but like
No, no,
that's
no, go ahead, go ahead.
what I think about when I do anything is like for me, like this maybe this answers like the what's your why question. I feel like I didn't really get it out, but I will
Mhm.
always be doing things for like 15-year-old Sophia. Like because
Exactly.
it was like it was a dark place that I was in, and like it really isn't about me proving myself to anybody else. It's sort of for who I used to be or who I am now. I need to know, I need to feel comfortable in myself. And that's another thing is like I feel like when people say somebody changed, like what they actually mean is they're refining themselves, and it's
Evolving,
good to refine
adapting.
yourselves or shed your skin because like the circle of life, but also that's what you need to do to grow up. And
Mhm.
especially as a black person, everything is way more serious for us. We don't have the luxury of being mediocre. So that's what you have to do to survive.
Yeah. And
Even
yeah,
if
you
it's
don't have the luxury of being mediocre. You don't have the luxury of falling behind because once you fall behind, you're done. Basically, like you can't be like I think I was saying with Brooke with women having to mature quicker. Like
Mhm.
that's just a general statement for anybody. Like I think I went into elementary school. My mom's like, yeah, straight A's or nothing. Like, damn, like okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, like, and that was before grades even mattered. Like, yeah, grades
Mhm.
mattered, of course, but like, high school, of course, grades really mattered. But like, it was like, yeah, like I was coming home with A's and B's, or it was just not good enough. And I thank her for that, and I thank her for like putting that in me because, or else I would have been complacent and I would have just stayed who I was, and I wouldn't have been where I am now. So, you know, to be at that level of at adapting and evolving at such a quick age, like it does do something to you. But like I always tell my, like you were saying to yourself, like freshman Jaden me now is different than freshman in college Jaden because I've grown and I've realized, not I've grown people skills and I've grown just a better way of how to handle myself in certain situations that I didn't know I had to before, and
Mhm.
getting in those situations is definitely key as well. Like, being in typical conversations with the teacher, having to deal with struggling in a class and actually having to ask for help that I never really had to ask for before, things like that helped me grow as a person. And like you said, I never forget where I came from or who I was before. Like I always remember me as a kid. I always remember me younger and who I'm doing it for, like you say. And definitely for that kid that looked up to me and said, "Oh, I want to change the world." Like I feel like I'm becoming that. And I always tell myself, I was like, "Can I do it? Can I do it?" As a kid. And it's like now I'm doing it, and I'm showing my younger self that yeah, it's possible to really, and younger kids as well. Like it's possible to change the world if you really just put your mind to it. Like if you
Yeah.
really just want it, just go get it.
Mhm. And it's definitely a lot of people don't understand is that I'm going into mental health now, but it's when you really struggle with those issues, there will always be a misunderstanding between you and the people around you. And like the friends that I've been able to keep, the long-term friends, they will always love you like in every form. So like when it comes to growing, like this directly relates to becoming who you've always meant to be or returning back to who you were always supposed to be. It also like people say like it is about the people that are around you too. You need to very carefully look at the people that are around you, and that can be hard and it can be controversial, whatever you want to call it, and people get their feelings hurt, including you.
Yeah.
And people victimize themselves, but it is life. And so, as hard as it is, I feel like that's another part of like being strong in yourself is realizing that if everything like one like I've had moments where like if everything went away, like I know that I'm gonna go to bed tonight and I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm gonna be there for myself. That is where the real strength comes from. I feel like a lot of people haven't, especially at 16, haven't gotten to that point where they're like, okay, I really feel like I have nobody, but I know that I have my camera, I have a
Mhm.
brain, I have legs that I can walk on, and I know that when I go to bed, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to continue on with my life. So I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding with me when it comes to the way I respond to things, the way I act. And it's not that I'm careless, it's not that I'm nihilistic, it's not that I'm inconsiderate or that I'm looking for a word, um, unconcerned, for
Mhm.
lack of a better word. But my strength comes from knowing that. like no matter what, I'm still gonna be working towards whatever it is, the goal that I have, like still I rise type of thing. Um, because I have been through some deep struggles, and when I say deep struggles, I'm talking about like some things that you don't really want to share with the
Yeah,
people that are around you. But
and it's so difficult.
yeah,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but like as you were saying, it's so difficult because for us, like black mental health is so important, but it's not stressed enough. You know what I mean?
because
Like
we
it,
just never have time. We're all working our butt off
that, and
constantly.
we just never think of it as, oh, I need help. Like what? No, I don't need help. I just get
Right.
over it. You know what I
The
mean?
generational trauma thing is a big deal, and that's why I'm going to talk about music now. But that's why, like, Kendrick Lamar's most recent album is like such a huge deal. I know white people liked it, but like the power that he put into that music, like it kind of like I think people are really getting it. I
Yeah,
think
I
like for the
didn't even
first time
listen to
people are
it.
listening to the lyrics, you know.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
even. I gotta listen to it now, honestly, because
yeah.
now, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's the, like you brought up like since we're talking about like generational curses, like what people don't understand is like when you really see a black person like struggling with mental health or any of those things, like it's deeper than it would be for a white person majority of the time because it's like not only are they breaking a cycle within themselves, but it's a big deal when that cycle is broken or when the
Sure.
family comes together to work towards breaking a cycle because it's gone through generations. And so I mean I feel like you literally can sometimes feel that on your shoulders. So it is like I said, it's a lot of pressure like between like the balancing act of like we have black excellence on one side and we have white mediocrity and then being compared and then the white people who are aware, not ignorant, this is where the real problems are, aware and they do nothing, like silence is complacency, makes it harder for us to strive. And
Sure.
then we feel like the black excellence thing becomes less of an encouraging movement and it becomes toxic because we ignore our mental health, we ignore our physical health, and we're just trying to get to the top. But you need to work internally and then it'll manifest itself externally when you're working on those issues is what I've learned. So I'm like very adamant about like the whole black excellence thing because I'm not saying I need to be mediocre, but I do not need to make you feel comfortable. And I feel like you would agree.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to like if you don't care, like as you said before, like if you don't care about my culture, oh well, I'm gonna express myself and express my culture as much as I want. You know what I mean? When it's
Mm-hmm.
Juneteenth, I'm gonna be quick to blurt out as much as I can about Juneteenth, as much as I want, as whoever watches, whoever and like you said, that black excellence is so important. Like I am truly inspired by the people that have that platform that use it. Like when I look at LeBron that actually speaks on
Yep.
those
So
topics that's hard to speak on, but he does it, even though most people they'll shut up and I'll take my
so
10
yeah,
million.
he's the
I'll take
one
my
that
10
he
million a year.
actually gives back to his community. Like he's such a
Exactly.
great person. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, like with the generational curses, like I mean, for me, it was always just like, oh, don't have a kid at a young age. Like it was almost to the point where like like you said, it's so stressful to me that I was like, okay, at that point, I just want to practice abstinence because
Yeah,
like
like
I don't
literally
want
you go
that
to the extreme.
stress.
Like there was a lot of trauma in my family. Like it's a very artsy family. There was a lot of trauma in my family with like I feel like in every black family,
Oh, of course,
like the
absolutely.
arts, like dropping out of high school, like
Mhm.
they kind of thought that was the direction I was going. And so even when I was dancing, it was like, you need to go to college, you need to go to college.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of like I don't want to go to school. And
And
it
they
kind
lose
of
sight
makes
of
you
what you
rebel.
actually like when they
Yep,
do that because they're
exactly.
so
But the
focused on
opposite.
breaking that curse that's
Yeah.
been, for sure. But yeah, do you have anything else that you wanted to? I mean, we could talk forever. I
Me
definitely want
too.
to bring you back. I want to talk again. I just love the conversations that we have because
Hmm.
not only do I know you from such a personal level,
Hmm.
we know each other from almost a different. I feel like you said with like black people being so spiritual, like I've known you from a different level than just friends. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
Um, like we've just been so close and
Hmm.
we've had so many experiences that we've almost shared together at times,
Hmm.
like just being in the same class and going through the same things we've been through and working through the same things, like all of that ties together, and I feel like we've had that deeper connection. That's why we can have such deeper intellectual conversations like this to truly get to the bottom of what things need to be talked about. And I think that's truly what I wanted to get off my chest on this podcast, like the things that we talked about today, and I want to continue to talk about, because those things don't go away in one day. You know what I mean? And they don't go away just
gotta
because
stop ignoring them. Yep.
Exactly. And I'm 100, like, I love it. I don't really have
Me either.
a black person of representation today.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were gonna say you don't have any more else to say. I don't have any more else to say either. But if there was one person you looked up to, who would it be?
Can I give you a couple?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, like if you want to rank them, go ahead. Do your thing.
Nina Simone, just amazing. I don't really need to explain that. Great music to be young, black and free. Like it is just it's insane. Definitely Angela Davis, Aretha Franklin, Fred Hampton. Controversial, but yes, I
was gonna say you're going very musical. I like it, but like I do also. That's one thing I think I forgot to mention. Art is not just what people think of art as painting and drawing. Like there's so much more to the fine arts than what you think. It's music, it's theater, it's literature, it's paintings, it's drawings, it's photography. I think so many people just lose the fact that because it's art, people just we're just drawing and making clay. No, it's much more than just what you think. So yeah, but continue. Yeah, Fred Hampton and
Eartha Kitt. If you guys don't know who that is, you need to look into that, especially if you're like a young black girl. And I had one more. I mean, there's endless.
I know you talk about Maya Angelou earlier.
Yes, Maya Angelou. We're literally back. Like black people are coming back strong. But Maya Angelou, like this stuff that she went through is insane. Like I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings is like something that I need to get like
so powerful.
It's so powerful because like when you're constantly oppressed, like it just makes you want to like show your colors even more. But yeah, I have endless black people I look up to.
We all do, honestly. I feel like everybody
we're just so good.
We look up to at some
like,
point.
You can hate, but like like we're back. Like
for 100%. Trying to find this. What was I looking for? Because what you were talking about with Maya Angelou just sparked my interest in somebody, and I totally forgot who it was. I'm trying to think. It's a guy, but I just can't think of his name. He's a black poet, but I forget his name. Oh my goodness. I don't remember. Langston Hughes. There you go.
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking Langston Hughes was Canadian, and that is D.L. Hewley. That is not the same person. So yeah, I was getting that confused for sure. But yeah, definitely look up
Basquiat.
You said what?
Basquiat. He's an artist. I do have a Keith Haring tapestry behind me, but we're gonna ignore that. I have a little issues with Keith Haring, but definitely look into a lot of black artists because like we invented so many things you didn't know we invented.
The Harlem Renaissance is all on us. Jazz is all on us. All of that stuff that people listen to nowadays is 100% from us. Like the poetry, like our poetry is probably some of the best poetry you ever read, and it trickled down into rap and hip hop and
creativity and pain. Sorry, but they go hand in hand.
You really dominated like the whole arts. Honestly, I feel like since that Harlem Renaissance and since like that era, like we just truly dominated. And like as we grow, we're starting to see more people just continue that trend now and continue to become the next Maya Angelou, the next like you said, Angela Davis, stuff like that. Like they're coming back up, and black don't crack is what I've always heard. So, and it definitely doesn't.
Does not crack. We never die.
Never die. Exactly. It's always gonna come back. Like I said, minor setbacks for major comebacks is what we're all about for sure. But yeah, that's it for today. I didn't even tell you the episode. Yeah, today episode 6, man. National Podcast Day. Phia, the photographer, Parkins, actually. But
Parkins.
there we go. But
Oh,
yeah,
man.
great episode. Thank you guys for watching again. Once again, love all the support, love everything that you guys have done for the show so far. Continue to I hope to continue this some more, and I hope you guys continue to watch more, and I hope you guys continue to support because there's more coming for sure. And we definitely won't stop. So appreciate you guys watching again. Like I said, this is everything black, and yeah,
Thank you.
of course, absolutely.